President Donald Trump thinks voting by mail is a pretty bad idea, except when he does it.
So you were highly critical of mail-in voting, mail-in ballots for voting.
I think mail-in voting is
but
horrible.
You voted by
It's
mail
corrupt.
in Florida's election last month, didn't you?
Sure, I could vote by mail for that.
How do you reconcile
Because I'm
that?
allowed to. Well, that's called out of state. You know why I voted? Because I happen to be in the White House and I won't be able to go to Florida to vote.
What's the difference between mailing within
well, there's a
state or
big
mailing
difference
outside
between
state?
somebody that's out of state and does a ballot and everything sealed, certified, and everything else. You see what you have to do with the certifications.
I mean, look, vote by mail. Horrible, corrupt, but I'm allowed to do it, so I did it. And but look, I'd go through all these certifications. Well, so does everybody else. Okay, look. He's got a good reason to do it, yes, because he was in Washington and he lives in Florida now. But you know what? Everybody else who does a mail-in ballot also has a good reason to do it. I mean, it's kind of the point, especially in the middle of a coronavirus, right? Where, people are social distancing, and they should, to avoid having to go to the polls. Again, that's a good idea. That's a good reason to have mail-in voting. Kind of the point. But Trump is going to go on. He's going to explain why he's totally against this, and why it's good for him, but not for you.
Thousands and thousands of people sitting in somebody's living room signing ballots all over the place. No, I think that mail-in voting is a terrible thing. I think if you vote, you should go. And even the concept of early voting is not the greatest because a lot of things happen. But it's okay. But you should go and you should vote. I think you should go and you should vote. You look at what they do, where they grab thousands of mail-in ballots and they dump it. I'll tell you what, and I don't have to tell you, you can look at the statistics. There's a lot of dishonesty going along with mail-in voting, mail-in ballot.
Okay. Wow. Thousands of people, you guys. They're in their living rooms. They're signing ballots. No, that's not a thing. That's not a thing that totally happens. Especially with a highly contagious disease going around. I mean, look, even without that threat, that's not really something that happens. Now, there are election experts, and let's actually go to the experts, right? Who do say, yes, on the issue of fraud, there's a little bit more, slightly more fraud when it comes to in-mail voting than in-person voting, which is infinitesimally small as it is. In fact, there was a study that found that out of the 197 million votes cast for federal candidates between 2002 and 2005, only 40 voters were indicted for voter fraud. Only 26 of those cases, about 0.0000013% of the votes cast resulted in convictions of voter fraud. I mean, that's really small. Now, with in-mail voting, that might go up to 0.0000025%. Oh no! Disaster! 45 people maybe have gotten in-person voter fraud or mail-in fraud. Sorry. Look, it is infinitesimally small numbers, right? And by the way, Donald Trump says that, there's going to be so much fraud. They're going to sit here and they're going to do all that, and it's not good. It's corrupt, right? Well, those same experts said that you can do mail-in voting very safely and securely. And they also point out that election fraud is very rare in all those instances. Where there is fraud in the system, according to Lana Atkinson, a political science professor at the University of New Mexico, it really seems to be in mail-in balloting. There's not a lot. I think there's a little bit. All right, so what can be done? States can implement things like ballot tracking, as well as prepaid postage, and ballot drop boxes, which eliminate the need for voters to hand over their ballots to a third party, and therefore preventing the situation that Trump talks about, known as ballot harvesting. Okay. That said, the thing about Trump is that he's really not afraid of voter fraud, right? No, what he's afraid of, he spells out in this interview.
The things they had in there were crazy. They had things, levels of voting that if you ever agreed to it, you'd never have a Republican elected in this country again.
Yeah. There would be a lever vote of voting in which Republicans could never win again. I can't have that. Now, look, it's generally known that the more people that turn out, the less Republicans win. And why? It's because Republicans are deeply unpopular. The party is deeply unpopular. And that's why we have levels of voter suppression. That's why it's tougher to vote. That's why you see huge lines in minority areas, less polling places, more hoops to jump through. All of that is designed to suppress the vote so that people will either say, well, it's too tough, right? There's too much to do. I don't have time for that. I got a job to go to. Who's going to watch my kids while I go and stand in line for 2 hours in order to vote? No. Voting by mail is a smart thing to do if you want to increase voter turnout. But these Republicans, they don't want to increase voter turnout because, as they have admitted in many different circumstances or many different instances, that they win when less people show up. And that's it. And look, making voting easier, I think it's always been an important issue. But now it should be in the forefront because we're in the middle of a pandemic. We should definitely make voting easier and safer. Going out in person right now, like in Wisconsin and Florida, we're going to have grave consequences. And I mean, people going to their graves because they were forced to brave the COVID-infested wasteland in order to vote for their representation. There were very important elections in Wisconsin, the judgeships, right, that Republicans wanted to win. And they're willing to sacrifice the lives of their voters in order to win those elections. And it is absolutely sickening. As for Trump, attacking something that he used himself in mail voting, it's just the height of his hypocrisy. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a patreon.com/TYTNation set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.